Today we're going to be making slow cooked Korean style beef. First of all, you're going to want to preheat a large heavy bottom pan under low heat to make sure the heat is evenly distributed. Now ideally you'd want to use something like a Dutch oven, but I was using that for another recipe on the same day, so here I'm using a non-stick stainless steel pan because that was my next best option. Now I didn't have any beef stock in the house, so here I'm boiling 240 milliliters of water to add a beef stock cube to it later on. In a large bowl, add in half a cup of soy sauce and half a cup of light brown sugar. Well, here my water started boiling, so adding in that beef stock cube now and giving it a good stir. Honing my knife because it makes me feel like a professional chef before cutting the ends off and peeling 4 cloves of garlic that we're going to need to add to the mixing bowl, as well as cutting and peeling 1 teaspoon of ginger. And I didn't have any onion powder, so here I'm using half an onion. Either red or brown would be fine. I'm just using a red onion, which would make it a bit sweeter, but I had it left over in the fridge. Using a mincer, I'm going to add the garlic to the mixing bowl, on top of using a zester to grate the ginger in. Then adding in 1 tablespoon of sesame oil, which you can't see because my hand is in the way. And I didn't have any rice wine vinegar, so I'm adding in white wine vinegar instead, which you also can't see. 1 teaspoon of Sriracha sauce, where I finally realized my hand was covering the camera. About half a teaspoon of freshly cracked black pepper. And finally adding in the beef stock before giving it a good mix. Set that aside, and in another large bowl, adding in about 1.3 kilos of stewing beef, without the tissue ideally, and then patting it dry with some kitchen roll to get rid of a bit of the blood. Then we're gonna salt the beef, but not too much because soy sauce already is quite salty and you can always salt to taste a bit later on. And a few turns of some freshly cracked black pepper before giving it a good mix to make sure it's evenly seasoned. Now with our preheated pan, you're going to want to turn the heat up to high because we want the pan to be smoking before we add the 2 tablespoons of oil in. From here we're going to add half of the beef into the pan and we're going to evenly spread it out. We're going to cook about 5 minutes on one side, and it's important you don't move the meat from here because we want the meat to char. Again, I'm using a non-stick pan here, but ideally you'd want to use a pan that's not non-stick. After about 5 minutes, the meat will have charred, and we're going to try and flip the meat and do the same on the other side. And yes, you're probably going to have to shower after this. Once the beef has charred on the other side, we're going to mix it in the bowl with the uncooked beef. Now it's important you don't cook all the beef this way because we don't want that charred flavour to be too overpowering. We want a good balance between flavours. In the same pan, add in another tablespoon of oil. Add the onions in and cook for a couple of minutes until translucent. Then add all the beef into the pan and evenly spread it out. Pour in the sauce mix we made earlier over the beef, then give it a good stir to make sure the beef is evenly coated before bringing the whole mixture to a boil, then covering and reducing to a simmer. Personally, I'll leave it to simmer for between 2 to 3 hours or until the beef is really tender, ensuring you give it a good stir every 30 minutes or so. When the beef is looking delicious and tender, mix 2 tablespoons of cornstarch with a 1/4 cup of water, then slowly mix it in the beef mixture in parts until the sauce has thickened. You may not need all of it, so be mindful to not just dump it all in. When thickened until your liking, serve immediately, garnish with some chopped spring onions and sesame seeds, and there you go, you have your slow cooked Korean style beef.